Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a special show for you tonight. I hosted a panel for an upcoming conference in Argentina with some of the world's top experts on hemp, top people in working on hemp plastic, hemp building materials, hemp farming, hemp construction. We'll have Paul Benhaim on. He's been on a few weeks ago talking about his hemp plastic and hemp food businesses. We have Beegle on, founder of the NOCO Hemp Expo in Colorado, and Silver Mountain Hemp Guitars, and a tree-free paper company as well, tree-free hemp paper. And Anndrea Hermann, a longtime expert on cannabis, probably the one with the widest variety of expertise. We have Sergiy Kovalenkov from the Ukraine, though we're filming him from Canada. Paul Benham's actually in Australia. And Anar from Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. So of a gentleman that I got to meet in Thailand several months ago. So we'll have this panel of world experts for the Argentine Expo. So stay tuned as we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Okay, as I said before, we are going to skip our hemp news segment tonight, but I do want to let you know that if you or a loved one are looking for help finding a doctor anywhere in the United States who can help you get a medical marijuana permit, we have a great deal of expertise in that and can refer you to doctors all over the United States. So call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. So here is our interview and this panel for an Argentinian Hemp Expo with Paul Benhaim, Anndrea Hermann, Beegle, Mike Bifari, Anar, Sergiy Kovalenkov, and me. And at the end of the show, if you want to see, this goes on for about an hour and 20 minutes. If you want to see more, you can go to our web YouTube site at youtube.com/Cannabis Common Sense. We have literally 1,000 shows up there. So go to youtube.com/Cannabis Common Sense. I hope you enjoy this unique panel and restore hemp. Thank you.
So we have a presentation for the Expo Industria Cannamo y Cannabis Conference in Mar del Plata, Argentina. My pronunciations are probably bad, but this is a presentation for that expo, and our friend Mike Bifari from Argentina has asked us to put this together. So there are several of us here. We'll each present for about 5 minutes. And why don't we start with Paul Benhaim. Paul, go ahead. And how are you down in Australia right now? We're on all continents, we might say, as well. So Paul Benhaim is in Australia. Tell us about yourself, Paul.
G'day, Paul, and g'day, Argentina. Thanks for joining and listening in to what is an amazing bunch of people with a lot of fantastic experience. I've been working with hemp for about 26, 27 years now. I've written 9 books on hemp, and I speak around the world, which is how I know a lot of the wonderful people in this group. I focused most of my career on hemp foods and hemp plastics. I'd also created a company that became public in the CBD space as well. Today, I guess I won't talk too much about foods, except that it's something I still consume after 26 years every single day. That should give you an idea that hemp foods are good for you. They taste great. Enjoy them. That's what I'll say about hemp foods. owning the largest company in the Southern Hemisphere that just bought the third largest company in Australia. So we keep growing in that regard. So it's an exciting business to share. And that's all from the hemp seeds. We now actually own the largest network of hemp farmers in Australia as well. So that's exciting time. My focus personally is on hemp plastics. Hemp plastics is something I started in the 90s, where I created the first independent study on bioplastics and how hemp could fit, except apparently Henry Ford potentially. And I created the first product, which is actually behind me there on the wall. The orange frisbee is the high fly hemp frisbee. And the larger frisbee behind it is a much more recent hemp plastic frisbee that we produced only last year in 2022. We produced lots of things from hemp plastics, which maybe people have heard of. And these are blends. These are like doob tubes in different colors. So this is what people will pack doob tubes in. This is what people will be packing cannabis in, I think, and most places in the US and Canada quite soon. There's been $250,000 spent on just a mold to produce a shitload of these, many millions a month. So it's a childproof container made of hemp plastics. So they're fun. There's lots of different shaped ones and different colors and stuff. But we can also do really other funky things, making like really hard boards like this that can be used as bench tops. We can make really soft boards from hemp plastics that you can see is slightly translucent and are super bendy and super thin. And we can do that in all different colors, sizes, thicknesses, etc. So the options for making products from hemp plastics is really exciting to me, predominantly because it's such a large market and most people use plastics around them. And this particular technology I've created with a team of experts from plastics allows us to use existing injection molding, blow molding, and various other technologies to produce plastics that already exist around the world everywhere. So we just supply the pellets, that's the raw materials, little beads, and supply those to the market. We are very happy with finding the results of the carbon capture available from creating long-term items made from hemp, because hemp grows in such a short period of time and will actually store the carbon for as long as you create a product. So we're focused more on static materials, things that will stay around for a long time, rather than things that will biodegrade. So a lot of people ask us, can we produce hemp plastic bottles and hemp plastic bags? Yes, we technically can now, but we choose not to. It's a very low priority for us. There are many other options of materials that we would like to produce. Companies based in the US, and we hope to expand to Central and Southern America. Hope to have some production in Europe very soon. We already export container loads over to Europe. We are looking to set up production also in Australia. So there's a lot of potential to create hemp bioplastic compounds and products and production units around supply chains globally. So as Argentina grows more hemp and has more industries around hemp, whether that be for textiles, making hemp wood, making foods, making CBD or flowers, all of those industries have some form of waste product. Our business actually works well around those products because we can take their waste products as well as their raw materials and make zero waste production facility to make hemp plastics. And we're not much more expensive than regular plastics. It is possible that we can be as cheap or cheaper than regular plastics in the future as well. Our production capacity is many millions of pounds today, and we supply in train loads. So it's a very exciting time for me and my nearly 3 decades of work to get to something that I hope will affect and support lots of people around the world. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing.
So I have one of your hemp discs that I bought when you still lived in England.
Nice.
As I told you before.
And also hemp didgeridoos, you see, instrument.
I got to get one of those. I'll have to learn how to play it. Well, so let's see who should go next. How about you, Morris? We've got Morris Beegle in Colorado. Tell us all the things that you do with all your different companies, Morris.
Well, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Paul, and everybody else here. It's like a Thailand reunion.
It is. The Sensi Vila Fellowship.
Yeah, it was great to connect with everybody here in Thailand, and we've all been fortunate to connect with each other in other various parts of the world. So that's one really cool thing about this industry. And at some point, I think that we'll all probably be able to be in person in Argentina. I'm looking forward to that. So my name is Morris Beegle. I have a company called WAFBA. We are for Better Alternatives, which is an umbrella company that has a lot of different interests. It started out as Colorado Hemp Company in 2012 when we legalized adult use cannabis here in Colorado. We were the first state to do that in the United States. And we also at that same time there was a part of the language that allowed hemp farmers in Colorado or farmers in Colorado to start growing industrial hemp. And we were the first state to actually put it in the ground and do it in 2013 with a friend of mine, Ryan Laughlin, who everybody on this call probably is familiar with, but probably not in the room that I'm talking to. So Ryan is like one of the OG godfathers of growing hemp here in the United States. And so let's see what next thing I did in 2013, I started a hemp paper company called Tree Free Hemp. And I've been doing hemp paper for the last 10 years. I also started NOCO Hemp Expo in 2014, which is a large hemp-centric conference and trade show that's been at it. We're going into our ninth, would-be 10th show next week, which by the time you guys see this, it's going to be like 7 or 8 or 9 days past. So we're pre-recording this, but I've got a big event next week, and some of the folks on this call will be speaking at the event and exhibiting. Anndrea and Sergiy, and I guess that's the only ones. Unfortunately, Paul can't make it out from Australia. He made it to Nashville. We also have a show in Nashville called the Southern Hemp Expo. That's our summertime show. But NOCO focuses on all aspects of the hemp supply chain, from growers to genetics, seed companies to processors, manufacturers, all the ancillary businesses that are in between and around. Let's see what else. What else do I do? Oh, behind me, if this is going to be video, you'll be able to see all those guitars and guitar cabinets, and those are all made out of industrial hemp. They're made out of a hemp wood like this, which is the Hemp Wood Company, hempwood.com. And they make a pressed hemp board out of hemp stalks. They take these things and they compress them down in a process and use a eco-friendly binder, which I imagine is soy-based, but I'm not 100% positive on exactly what is in that binder. But to my knowledge, it's about as green as they can make it at this point. So this wood is incredibly hard. It's supposed to be like 10 times harder than oak, I think is what Greg Wilson said. So it's pretty hard. Oh, and while we're back to plastics, this is a piece of, this is a plastic koozie that's got some of the Hemp Plastic Company plastic in it from Paul Benhaim. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Boris.
More hemp plastic, guitar picks. This is a 3D hemp printed pick. So this is 30% hemp and 70% corn PLA. So it's all plant-based, no petroleum. And that's what we're trying to do is eliminate as much of the petroleum usages as we can with this plant. And not only petroleum usages, cotton, we should eliminate a lot of that because it's not a very environmentally friendly crop to grow. And timber, we don't need to be chopping down near as many trees as we are because we can replace a lot of that wood material again with hemp, whether that's construction materials or paper, any type of thing that's made out of wood. Even guitar cabinets can be made out of a pressed hemp wood. So let's see, any questions for me, Paul?
Not at this time.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I also have a platform called letstalkhemp.com. It's a media platform. We put out a weekly newsletter. We curate content from all over the world. We put out original content as well. We do features and profiles on companies and individuals who are doing great work in the space. So check out letstalkhemp.com. And then I guess we'll turn it over to somebody else. I'll let you go around the room again, Paul.
Okay, thanks. So Anndrea Hermann, you've been doing this forever as well. Tell us about all your varied projects. Condense your life into 5 minutes, maybe.
You want the elevator pitch of Anndrea Hermann? Hey, everybody, gentlemen, of course, welcome. It's always an honor. And, and tomorrow I'm presenting in Mexico with the, women in cannabis. And I sit on this call and I think, okay, look, great guys, love y'all. Where's the other ladies? And that's been really important to me to help bring that up within myself because, I'm one of many, one of few, and one of 9 sometimes. And I've been blessed throughout my journey to be embraced. So I'm from Joplin, Missouri originally. And when I was in my university, my professor said it's time to declare a major. And I'm like, it doesn't really interest me. And what he said to me changed my life and the course of many other people's life because of what he said. And he said, well, I want to know what pisses you off. I want to know what you feel you got to go out there and do something about. What's wrong? What's going to really drive you? And I said, it's this hemp thing. And he says, well, go do something about it. And fortunately enough, I got an internship working with the Parkland Industrial Hemp Growers in Dauphin, Manitoba. From that, I became a provincial nominee for the province of Manitoba, asking the government of Canada to bring me in as a landed immigrant or approve my landed immigrancy for a unique skilled worker here in Manitoba. Following that, was able to receive a federal grant to continue my education at the University of Manitoba in a hemp fiber research program, gaining my master's in plant science. I've worked in the hemp food industry for many, many years now, probably the greater sum of 20 some odd years that I've been here in Canada. I've been directly working with hemp as a food, much like Paul, still consuming food as his focus has changed somewhat away from food, but still as a lifestyle. Mine's still going hard as the director of inside sales for HPS Food and Ingredients, which not only focuses on hemp. So I think this is an important topic to talk about. It's not like 100% hemp, but thinking about how can we incorporate hemp into things we're already using? How can I put a little bit of hemp in there? That's really going to be key as we move forward, thinking about hemp as an agricultural crop. This is not a panacea we're talking about. This is reality. We need to think about what mechanisms do we already have? What infrastructure do we already have? And how do we get hemp into that system that's already there to improve the outcome in the long run, which will improve the input in the front end, driving agriculture, driving these types of change. One of the shifts I've seen, which I'm tied to through my work at Oregon State University, launching the first 3-credit-hour course offered online in industrial hemp in the US. So you got 3 credit hours, university credit hours for this online course offered at Oregon State University. That spun out to now universities around really the globe looking at hemp and bringing hemp on as part of their academia. So now if those kids are coming out of high school or university students are trying to find what's interesting to them and they think, hemp is pretty cool for me. I like that. I could do something. You can go and now formally do it. When I did it, there was nothing there for me. There wasn't a program built in with a full staff of people going, oh yeah, you want to do some hemp research? Come on. I had to create that. I had to find the money. I had to find the support. I had to build those programs out. So I know that that's made a change and that's been a big shift. And what's coming out of that is peer-reviewed research. So I just want to talk about a couple that I feel are really interesting. One was looking at, and around the world, we're used to having like pork buns or some sort of meat bun. And so this particular research looked at the quality of pork loaves with the addition of using hemp ingredients in them. And they found a couple of things. The oxidization of the product decreased when the products had hemp shell in them. So this is an opportunity. What is it about the shell that's causing this decrease in oxidation from other products? So, that's another thing we could look at. And consumers would basically buy it based on the nutritional value. So it's not saying we have to say, oh, this is the hemp sunrise bar. It can be the sunrise bar, just got hemp in it. It's going to increase the nutritional profile. So just talking about getting it in there, maybe sometimes, maybe the hemp leaf in someone's face isn't what's going to sell your product. It's just the nutritional value. So another one that's really exciting to me, and this is a global scenario, is looking at the novel remediation of chemicals that I will not attempt to pronounce in contaminated groundwater using hemp protein. So they found that when they use, compared to 6 other plant proteins, hemp was the best at remediating contaminated groundwater. Over 98% of the main contaminants were caught up in the proteins of the hemp. So this is just another really great, this was published in 2019. It's not brand new research, but I just found it like yesterday or 2 days ago. So looking at Google Scholars, so everybody out there, if you're wondering, how can I find out this research? Google Scholar is really a great tool to be able to find the research if there's a topic that your company is interested in, or thinking about the point of how do I put hemp in my product, and maybe what other related research that is out there. And in closing, my other pet project right now is I have a children's book out on Amazon called Tra-La-La. Everyone loves Tra-La-La. So if you're out there and listening, I'm looking to translate in many languages that I possibly can. So give me a shout on that. But that's something that I'm really proud of, and the message being able to get a children's book out that's about hemp. There's no crossover into marijuana in the book. It's purely about hemp. And so having that opportunity to put the book out there, so it's on instant print Amazon. So thanks for that. So that's my sort of pet fun project on the side. But everything I do is hemp. It's about my final vocabulary. So you can't get very far into a conversation without hemp, like most of us on this call and most of those people listening in circles back to.
Thank you, Anndrea Hermann in Canada. So now let's go to another person in Canada who's actually from the Ukraine. Sergiy, I don't have your last name spelled out in front of me, but I kind of remember Kovalenkov or something. I'm sorry for
Kovalenkov.
There it is. Oh, there it is.
It's okay.
Kovalenkov. That's it.
I don't it's fine. How you doing, everyone? Thank you for having me, first of all. It's always a pleasure, and I've been involved in hemp for over 13 years now, and I'm a civil engineer who is using hemp as a building and insulation material. So I just wanted to kind of share, I don't know, can I share my screen to show people in Argentina what can be done using hemp as a construction material? So I just wanted to briefly touch upon the most important issue is that the construction industry is one of the biggest emitters of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and everyone's talking about how do we reduce the emissions, So this is just basically how the traditional hemp farm looks like. This is how you would harvest the hemp that is grown for fiber. As Paul mentioned, the fiber goes towards plastics. It's going towards paper industry, textile industry, construction industry as well. And once it is harvested, the biomass that is left in the field for a few weeks to rest, and then it's baled up and is brought up into the decortication facility that is separating the best fibers from the herd. And so as you can see, the structure of the hemp stem on the left, it's hollow. The hemp stem is hollow in the middle. So the inner core particles, once that biomass is being pushed right through this machine, it's being dropped into small woody core pieces about 2-3 centimeters long. So on the right, you see those are the two products that coming out of this line. On the right, you see hemp fiber, and on the left, you see the hemp herds. So basically, you need to mix it up with the lime-based binder and water right on construction site. So it turns out to be an extremely energy efficient material that doesn't rot. I know there is a big issue with humidity and mold. in South and Central America. So this material is ideal to preserving the structural frame of the house. So you will never have a mold appearing in a hempcrete house. So with this type of biomass, you can insulate any type of surface inside the house. As you can see on this image, there are you prepare this by mixing these three ingredients in a specially designed mixer on site. You get the biomass that you compact in layers of 10 to 15 centimeters, and then you remove the shuttering system, the temporary shuttering system, and this material takes shape immediately and is turning into a light stone structure by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So these hempcrete houses are no different from any other houses visually once you finish it up. As you can see, your timber frame, it could be timber frame, it could be a steel frame, it could be any type of frame that can be completely surrounded by this biomass. And once it dries up, as you can see right here, we go in the layers. It's pretty cool. So you're preserving all that structural frame inside that biomass. And these houses, they look like traditional houses. You can have timber cladding, you can have stucco. It looks really beautiful, really simple. As you can see, there are examples of the roofs and floors. And like I've said, it's a gold mine for architects. You can have a structure of any shape or form, 1 story high, 2 story high. You can add hemp into the plasters. So it's a truly unique material in terms of applications in the construction industry. You can, it can be very complex structures as a dome houses. Any shape or form is possible. So that's what I've been doing for over 12 last years. And now we are on the verge of bringing it into the building codes of United States of America. Right now, there is a mention of hempcrete or hemp lime in the residential building codes of USA. So we're going to keep pushing it. And I think there is a huge potential in Latin American market to see such houses showing up left and right. This is one of the simplest ways to utilize hemp herds after you process it. Thank you very much. I'll just stop right there because I can go on for hours about this subject. Extremely amazing material, pest resistant, fire resistant, mold resistant, extremely energy efficient. You need to use less energy to in order to use air conditioning to cool the place. It's also works really well in the winter time. So that's one of the objectives of this industry, is to push on the bio-based construction materials where you literally can grow the biomass for your house on the field next door. So thank you very much.
And fire resistant too. So that's
yeah, fire resistant for sure. It can withstand extreme temperatures. We've tested it with over 3,000 degree Fahrenheit flare.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
So,
and it is a bulletproof. We've done a test recently.
Okay.
We'll showcase that data soon.
Right now. You need that in the Ukraine right now.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, yeah, that's the case. Yeah.
So we have on from Mongolia. I'm going to mispronounce your name again. Anar, Artur. How do you say your name? Anar.
Anar. Yes, Anar. We say it Anar.
And you are in Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia.
Yes, I am.
Pretty cold day there today.
Yes, -10.
So tell us about your work there.
Hello, guys. It's an honor to be here, and I'd like to say hello to everyone in Argentina and here as well in the panel. And I'd like to tell a little story about what's happening in Mongolia. Well, I've been involved and started a hemp company around 8 years ago. And at the beginning, we were started consulting or presenting to the ministries, to the people about all the benefits about the hemp. So from there, there will be a lot of interest in hemp, and we started working on this field. So mainly our work was around the consulting and building fundaments for the hemp industry in Mongolia. because in Mongolia we have a big misunderstanding that is still a drug, that's still a narcotic, and everybody was like afraid, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so we had to fight that thing as well. So we had to create contents about benefits of hemp. And one of the difficult things we had is language barrier, because we don't have literature about hemp and cannabis in Mongolian language. So it was kind of a big barrier. So we did a lot of contents, and from there became a lot of big movements, and a lot of autistic and epileptic kids started realizing, and families started realizing that is a medicine that is needed. So people started protesting about it, and just last year, CBD was approved, and I think this was as a medicine in Mongolia. So I think it was a big step and a big improvement only after like 6-7 years. And I'm pretty happy about this achievement, and it's very important achievement for us. So which means in Mongolia, in the region, we can work with CBD as a cosmetic, as a medicine, as everything. And I think it's a big shift and a big start. But still there is a lot to accomplish, because we don't have a proper laboratory to test. And now there is a lot of big companies are understanding benefits of it, and they're shifting, they're moving and doing a lot of research and development in the hemp sector. But at the end, the government struggles to control it and maintain, understand more about cannabinoids deeply, because we don't have proper laboratory. So at this moment, we are focusing on laboratory, to put the proper laboratory to test whatever we have here. And universities started involved in a hemp industry. So we planning to launch a student exchange with Thailand, with Israel, where we can send the students to learn more about this plant, and they can come back and work and improve this sector. So this is currently what we are focusing and working and building fundamentals. And obviously we need a lot of different strains to test in Mongolia. So this is another big work what we are working on. So another good news is that Mongolia just approved the genetic law last year, which allows us to work with different kind of plants, not just only cannabis, but different kind of medicinal plants. So we still need to understand what we have in Mongolia, and we highly suspect that this plant is coming out of Mongolia just because of climate and the geographical location what we are located in. We have desert, and we have forest area, and we have plain fields. The main issue we are facing is desertification, because the Gobi Desert start moving back, and a lot of nomad people started losing their pasture, and so they kind of forced move into the capital city, because they lose a lot of sheep and cows because of desertification. So that's the only one big reason that why we need to grow a lot of hemp, because we don't have a lot of biomass, and we import a lot of stuff from China and Russia just to feed Mongolian old cattle, because we have 70 million cattle now, and they are basically free. It's not, the farming is not really developed here, and they are just going into pasture and eat whatever they can eat, and they come back. So with the desertification, it becomes more and more impossible, and people start fighting. Nomads before never been fighting over an area where they can feed their cattle, but now the situation becomes more tense. So that's what we are consulting to university, to everywhere where we can grow. If we can grow hemp a lot, we can produce a lot of biomass. And with the capacity in the land what we have, we not only can provide to Mongolia, but we can provide different neighboring countries with the products, with all the amazing things we can do with the hemp. So basically, our work is circling around scientific community and giving them proper education and proper information so they can move forward without doing any wrong steps, shall I say, because we have to push it really forward really fast. And it's not only about the industry, it's all about also Mongolian independence, because we're independent because we have so much cattle and so much meat. So if every nomad start to move to the city, it will become a little bit difficult, and which will mean later on we'll have to import meat from somewhere else. Now we're exporting country of the meat, and later on we will have to import meat just because of that. We're not moving forward. But if we involve hemp, and if nomads can learn how to grow hemp, it will be opposite. The situation will reverse. So that's what we're suggesting. And the Mongolian government also doing a lot of good work. They deducting all the taxations if we operate in a countryside. And they deducting 50% of all taxations just to move, just to encourage people to go out of the city and improve the situation there. So basically, that's what's happening in Mongolia right now. And as organization, as association, we try to educate, we try to put a lot of information there. And as again, I tell you, we have this language barrier because most of the Mongolians speak Mongolian, and only maybe 20% are speaking English. So we have to put out a lot of contents on Mongolian language, and we have to do a lot of translations related to that. So mainly our work is focused on that. And obviously, while we're achieving this, we want to put very good factories, processing factories, because it becomes evident that Mongolian hemp industry is opening now. The laboratories are going to be there, CBD approved. So we have a lot of space to grow hemp, and we want to share that space, basically.
Okay, well, thank you, Anar.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. You know, Mongolia is kind of the heart of hemp's indigenous area. It originally was growing in Central Asia, and its cultivation spread out of Central Asia at least 25,000 years ago. And obviously, you know, they used hemp to domesticate horses, among many other farm animals. But of course, Mongolia was famous for their horse armies or cavalries.
Yes, but now if you guys are aware of ChatGPT or AI, when we ask those questions and the answers come out, in scientific community also kind of say that this cannabis plant may come out from Mongolia. And
Yeah.
yes, so in that sense, we have to, as a scientific community, we have to deeply research it and understand what we have, because we know there is a very important minor cannabinoids, and we know that we have very indigenous plant that never been touched by human hands, because nomads are not really interested in that plant. They are not really well educated, and infrastructure not really developed. So
But the horses will love it. The horses love it. So once I start feeding it to the horses won't want to go back. I can tell you that.
Yes, and nomad people, I noticed it, and nomad people say that only sick ones eat it. When where the cows and sheep are not sick, they're not touching it. But if they're sick, they're eating it. So it's another interesting fact that
they have some experience there.
Yes.
Well, I know we had some other guests that were lined up. I don't think, who else is here on our call right now? Has anyone else not spoken?
our keen leader there, Mike, has joined us. So Mike, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I have to apologize for my delay. I got caught in a storm in the middle of the mountains. So, the bus just arrived. I'm sorry. I was about 150K away in the big city in Cordoba. So, how is everybody? How are you, Paul? Nice
Good.
that you being the host here. The country, you've been around for some time.
We've driven across it, and I had the pleasure of going to Chaco about a year and a half ago, or a little less than that, the Resistencia.
Right. So this event that we're doing this conversation through is for the third city of the country, which is Mar del Plata, and Industria Cannabis and Cáñamo is also the host of this event. So these are our good friends that we already been in Chaco with. And so my good idea was to have you folks that we've been together in Thailand, and you guys are worldwide experts on hemp, is to introduce, the subject of hemp into South America. This is brand new. We're having our first crop, a little for hemp seed oil crop in the last 50 years. So this is going to be in April. We're harvesting after 50 years of not having hemp. And fortunately, the government changed the law. So now we are able to make operations on hemp on big scale. And, this country is a big, huge country. It's got more than 3,500,000 square kilometers. And it goes way down to Patagonia, the famous Patagonia. So we're really excited about introducing the hemp plant to all these people, to all these business people, to all these countrymen who work on different agriculture projects to introduce the hemp plant, which they are completely unknowledge about it. They haven't heard it, they haven't seen it. And so this is really exciting. It's an exciting moment. And I'm thrilled and happy to have you all on board for this, and that you all accepted my invitation. And I have to thank very much publicly to Morris. He was a big inspiration to make this. And so I'm really, really happy about it.
So, Mike, we've all kind of talked about what we do currently. You want to describe your current work and your history there with cannabis? I know you came and worked with me in Oregon and Washington, and
Yes.
we worked together in Colombia a little bit.
Yes.
I know I took you there the first time, but
right.
Tell our audience about yourself.
Well, I've been researching, cannabis hemp history in South America for some time now. That. So we've been around. We've been in Chile. Chile was the big producer of South America. The first seeds arrived with the Spanish conquistadors, like in 1545, Then in 1565 arrived to Peru, which is the same coastline, right? But then since then, Chile was the big producer, and everything ended around mid-70s, around 1973, when the Pinochet dictatorship showed up. They practically finished the whole hemp business there. And by that time, we had this confusion with marijuana because, the new generations, that what's so-called hippies, were trying to find a source for marijuana, and they went to these hemp fields to get the flowers, they didn't know. So, there was the early days of reconsidering the hemp plant. These new generations were burning it. And, actually the people that were working in the fields didn't know. They didn't know nothing about marijuana. They didn't know nothing about cannabis. They just knew that hemp crop that they were working for centuries, not only them, but their fathers, their grandfathers, everybody was working with hemp until the mid-70s. And here in Argentina, we did not have that big amount of hemp production, But we did have this Belgian manier, this Belgian man, which his name is Julio Stevlik, which he came after World War I to the Buenos Aires province, here in Argentina, which by those days, 100 years ago, many of the small little towns surrounding the big cities were empty. It was completely, the landscape was these plains, and you had nothing but the railroads, right? And this man, he made a big industry about the fiber. His family was working the fiber in Belgium, so he came to Argentina with that same profession, and he started in this remote area where nothing was there, and he built everything. He built a town, he built the church, he built schools, he built the soccer team, he built the yacht club. He did a whole bunch of things. He was considered the big father of Flandria, of the place called Jauregui. So he was basically making fiber with flax. But then around, let's say, at the end of the 50s, he started to prove hemp. And, the government gave him the hemp, and it was a whole project for new crops. They didn't know nothing about it, and they started. So the man played with the hemp crop in this adventure. He played for around, let's say, like 17 or 18 years. And he passed away in 1975. And in 1977, we had a military dictatorship, and they finished completely with the hemp crop. In 1977, they signed a decree finishing the whole thing. So we're very excited in these days, nowadays, because, after 50-something years, we're able to bring the crop back to the country. And, we don't have the people that used to work with the crop. Many of them passed away, but we still have the memories of what happened here. And, now, fortunately, we have the hemp seeds. So we're working on making a crop, and next year we'll make a bigger one and a bigger one, and, plant the seeds and see if we can develop something stable to use here in Argentina. That's our whole point,
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. I guess we need to say goodbye to Paul Benhaim and Artur in Australia, Paul Benhaim and Anar in Mongolia. Thank you guys for coming on here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Paul and Anar.
Enjoy.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So you guys are so important for people here in the South to see. So this is great.
I'll give a little introduction to myself, because I haven't done that yet. I've been a lifetime marijuana activist. I guess you'd say I was never in the closet. Back when I was just 18 years old, I went to the White House smoke-in in Washington, D.C. And then in 1981, I had contacted, I was Washington State Normal Coordinator and worked with the Yippies as well, and then moved to Oregon in 1984. In 82, I met Jack Herer in Los Angeles. I went down to LA and was there. And Jack and I both moved to Oregon in 84. He needed a place to put his book together, so I helped him provide a location, a little bit of research on the very first edition of his seminal book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. And then we both worked with a team of other people in Oregon to put a vote for marijuana legalization on the ballot in 1985. And we turned in our signatures by November 1st of 85 for a vote November 6th of 1986. That time, Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States, and the whole federal government came down on our head. We lost overwhelmingly. I started to go to, I realized that hemp was a viable future, and I started to go to school using my benefits as a service-connected disabled military veteran to go to school in China. And I studied Chinese and found sources of Chinese hemp and fabric and hemp paper. and I imported that, did it as a business, primarily as tree-free eco paper from 1988 to 1996. In 96, I couldn't raise the capital I needed to continue my hemp paper business, but I moved over. I started producing a cable television show called Cannabis Common Sense in Oregon in 1996, and I still do that show today. And when we legalized medical marijuana in 1999, I started working with doctors and medical marijuana patients. And I still do that today. In fact, just as we recorded today, we saw several patients with a doctor. But I have worked with a total of about 45 different doctors in 60 different cities across the United States, in 9 different states, and helped over 270,000 Americans get their state's medical marijuana permit. We were the first to open in Colorado and Washington, Hawaii, Michigan, Montana, Arizona. And so we had the starters benefit there. And I went back and helped put a marijuana legalization initiative on the ballot here in Oregon. We qualified for a vote the same time that Colorado and Washington did for November of 2012. But where Colorado and Washington won in 2012, our initiative lost here in Oregon in 2012. But we came back with a number of other states and legalized it in 2014. So in a nutshell, I still help medical marijuana patients. I also have been a cannabis cultivator. I've won a number of awards. Jorge Cervantes and Ed Rosenthal are good friends I've worked with since the 80s. And I still grow medical marijuana and provide it to a few patients here in Oregon and Washington. And I've won some awards for the quality of my cannabis. So I'm called a master grower in some people's eyes. But that's it in a nutshell. So Morris, do you have any questions for any of our other guests?
Well, first, I'd just like to say you're not only a master grower, you're a master educator, Paul. And our industry owes you a debt of gratitude for all of your work that you've done for decades and decades, not only in the United States, but all around the world. So thank you very much for all that you do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I subscribe to that, Paul. I subscribe to Morris's words.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I know Paul from a few years from now, and you know, there's some other things that he didn't mention, but I want to say something about Paul. You know, he has been a helper for a huge number of patients. Every time I was in Portland with him, he was receiving calls permanently from patients, you know, desperate for medicine. And so this man has been helping a lot of people and probably saving a lot of people's lives, which is something that nobody says. And another thing, Paul is a big expert about in the far east, on China and Japan. It's really amazing. It's really awesome to hear his conferences about the hemp in the old days in these remote places, you know, and these different cultures. So I really admire you, Paul, and I subscribe what Morris said about that. Everybody, the movement has to give you a big, consideration for your work, lifetime work that you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One thing I didn't mention, back in March 22nd of 1983 was the first time I was ever arrested, but it wasn't for marijuana. It was for blocking a train carrying hydrogen bomb warheads to the Trident submarines. So it's 40 years ago today, made the front page of the New York Times with that. But
So let me bring you a small little debate for a couple of minutes before we hang up. That I want Morris's point of view and yours. You know, I have a friend here, Rodrigo. He has a pot farm here in the mountains, and it's completely organic. You know, But the man, the man is extreme organic. So he doesn't buy no artificial products. He doesn't buy nothing. He only buys food for his animals, and from that source, he makes his own stuff. He makes everything. He makes the food for feeding his plants. He makes everything from his animals and from the vegetable food that he buys for his animals. So, making this little introductions about Rodrigo, he's stating a debate because Argentina has a diagram, a schedule of production. We've been under this poisoning production system with the soybean for decades. We've been producing soybean and the soybean technology for decades, and we've been literally poisoning our fields. Poisoning badly our fields, producing cancer, producing death, producing bad things for our society, for our people. This is true. But so now that we're introducing hemp, there is something that has to be said, that hemp is the opposite of poisoning production systems. Hemp is naturally ecological. So, and it has this handicap. Wherever you go, the handicap is hemp, because hemp doesn't need big pesticides to grow, doesn't have these big enemies that we have to kill with poison. So hemp is naturally a sustainable crop. And so I want to introduce this type of discussion among the Argentine society with this new crop, because the problem is already here with decades of being poisoning our productive fields. And if you ask me, I think hemp is part of the solution, but I don't have the strength enough to make this debate on my own. So this is my point of getting you guys on board. But I want to understand what you think about this, and if you acknowledge the poisoning of productive fields, not only in Argentina but worldwide. Monsanto has been doing lots of harm in the productive land. So this is a debate that I think that many of our countries deserve, because hemp is new. So we're starting. So it's a good time to make this debate. I don't know what you think, Paul, about this. And if I don't know if it was clear enough. You have to say, Morris.
We have to say what's left of our biosphere. There's no doubt. Go ahead, Boris.
Oh, well, we've been preaching regenerative and organic agriculture since we started NOCO in 2014. It's always a central part of our discussion as to how we should really try to grow this crop. And not that, it's grown conventionally, and Anndrea can talk about that as well. She's an agronomist and can talk more since when it comes to soil and technical data and so forth. But just from a holistic standpoint, I think that it's really important for us to try to grow as much organic and regenerative hemp as possible, to rotate out with the corn and the soy that's been destroying the soil for so long. And can we encourage the soy industry and the corn industry to be better than they have been as we move forward with our society? Because if we don't make some drastic changes over the next 10 or 20, 30 years, our soil's really, it's in bad shape already. We need to sequester carbon. We need to treat the soil better. There is an argument to be made. You've got huge chemical companies that are DuPont and Monsanto and petrochemicals that are sprayed all over the place. And we really have to make changes. And how do we change the minds of the corn and the soy industry and big meat industry and the dairy industry? It's a challenging thing. I think, Anndrea, what do you have to say? Paul, what do you have to say?
I think the science is what we've always fallen back on. The science shows that hemp is ecological, doesn't need the pesticides. Anndrea, though, is the real expert here. So, Anndrea, would you address these issues for us?
Well, I think as we start getting to larger crops, the concept that this crop does not have any pest is not true. It definitely can get pests. And so using these regenerative types of agriculture, cover cropping, companion cropping, whatever you can use and learn about that excites you is going to really make it help change that impact. So we have to be mindful of the fact that is it a wild weed? Can it grow anywhere? Pretty much. Is it going to grow well everywhere? That really depends. So I've always said, hemp belongs on your back, in your belly, in your automobile, in a plastic, in a food, in an animal, but not always and everywhere in cultivation, just based on the agricultural landscape. But it can also be used to remediate lands that aren't now usable for cropping systems, to say. Another thing is, it does need fertilizer. So you've got to feed it the nutrients. You want to get the yield in the long run. For your efforts in the beginning, you've got to make sure that you're doing the soil testing, that you're also really looking at what varieties you're growing. And this is important to bring on and do these variety trials so you can isolate and say, okay, these ones work, but it's not only about the varieties, it's about the infrastructure. So if you have no means of dealing with the fiber, should you focus purely on fiber? Maybe not, maybe a little bit on fiber. If you've got infrastructure for other grains, okay, well then let's talk about maybe we should focus on grains, but still have a little bit of fiber work going on, but trying to decide where to use your money. People often will come to me and say, oh, Anndrea, hemp's so wonderful. I want to grow it, build my house, make my shirt, make some plastic. I'm gonna put it in some products. I'm gonna squeeze the oil out of it and make protein. They're gonna do it all from one crop. Is it possible? Yeah, it is.
It's not real. It's not real.
It's not real, but can you take this crop and be able to proportion off and say the root's going one way, the fiber's going to go the other way, the grain is going to go the other way? Yes, but it's having that back infrastructure. But as myself, as a small farmer, am I going to be able to do all of that? Maybe if you have, your hand crank. It depends on that economy of scale. So that's important to think about when we're talking about agriculture, is the economy of scale. And then getting into all the quality assurance that it takes from the farmer samples. So we're pulling on the food side for HPS from our farmers, we're pulling multiple samples throughout the process of when the farmer's drying that grain down to make sure that the quality stays good. Because more dockage for the farmer, he doesn't want that either, or she doesn't want that either. So making sure we're looking at that quality assurance. And then once the grain has gone through the seed cleaner, it's off farm. Okay, the farm sample's good. We're going to get it to the cleaner. Then the cleaner's going to clean it. And then you're going to test it again before your manufacturing facility is ready to take the grain in. So there's cost, of course, associated with all of these, having a QA personnel, working with the farmer, coordinating on the contracts. In addition to once the product comes into your facility,
right?
The amount of analytical certifications you have to go through, the programs that have to go through. It's not just throw it up and go. You've got to make sure that all those HACCP, GFSI programs are put in place. So one came down the other day. We saw the FDA saying everybody who has an FDA registration has to have a DUNS number. So getting all of these little pieces in place, not to mind all of the certifications, organic, halal, non-GMO, some gluten-free or vegan, depending on what kind of signs and symbols you want to have, to know that when it gets to the customer or when you sell it to your customer. So then it goes beyond just what's going on in the manufacturing facility. It's educating your customers as a bulk ingredient supply or as a retail, how to better store this product. So if you've got hemp, it's intended to eat. It's not a showpiece. So eat it, consume it, and then you're not going to have a situation where you're going to go and try to go pull that hulled hemp seed that you've sat later, a year later, thinking pull it out and it's going to be good. The likelihood is it's going to be off. So looking at how to better educate not only the companies wanting to use hemp, especially in this aspect, I'm talking about hemp food ingredients, and also the end consumer about how to use it, when to use it, is something that we really have to push for overall.
Yes, let me tell you this. We're in a stage that we have to stand in both sides of the counter. Like we have to educate the state officials and educate the public. Once I had a conversation with Anndrea about the way that you pick up randomly the samples for the lab, when you have to do the testings. And, I've been talking, for example, this afternoon with a gentleman that produces alfalfa, alfalfa pellets. And he was saying that for many crops, like they use they do it the same way as they do hemp in Canada. They choose the samples and then they take it to the lab. They give part of the samples to the owner so he can keep it, and they do all that. So this is basically a big agriculture country. So I think that many things we can adapt. Many things that are already in place can be adapted to hemp, including tools and machinery. And big scale production.
In terms of the latitude, Argentina is perfect for expanding its hemp cultivation. You have long days, especially the farther you go south toward Antarctica. It's a lot like Canada there in Patagonia and the mountains.
The soil is not that rich as in the Pampa. The Pampa is not that way down south. This is a huge country. The province of Buenos Aires, which is the biggest province, is bigger than France. So our little project, our little hemp project right now is way down south of Buenos Aires. We're 500 meters from a river that's called the Rio Salado, which is the limit with Patagonia. And I've been observing the soil is not that rich. We have to do testings on the soil and everything. But some of our
add compost.
The campesinos, the peasants that are working producing onions in the area, this is for Anndrea. You like this, Anndrea. They are so fascinated with the little crop that we have because the haze that's been falling with the rain has not damaged the hemp. It has not damaged it at all. And it has really damaged maybe 40% the onion crop. So these guys are observing the hemp plants and they say, we never seen this before. And some of the plants were put on the soil, on la tierra, January the 3rd. So they only have 2 months and they are already 2 meters, 80 centimeters long, full of seeds. And they look very healthy and happy. So it's amazing for me, but it's really, blowing people's minds that are people from the countryside, people that are not used to the city. These are special people that work the country, that work the soil in the countryside, and they are amazed with this hemp plant. They never saw it before.
Is Sergiy still here?
I don't think so. I think he dropped off.
Okay. Well, what I often tell people when I go and talk in various countries is, if you're going to make paper or fabric, you need an industrial base. It's not something you're going to be able to start, with a small investment. The easiest thing is what Sergiy's doing, the hempcrete. That you can take the stems and chop them up. It doesn't take a huge investment. The next thing is the food, the hemp seed. And if you can get to the point where you're hulling the hemp seeds, that's so much better because hulled hemp seed is generally more palatable. Wouldn't you agree, Anndrea?
Yeah, it's easy. You can just sprinkle it on anything. Hemp seed oil having that really robust nutty flavor is sometimes takes a bit to get used to. For a lot of palates, we know this. And then anything with the shell on, it gets stuck in your teeth, even though there's that strong dietary fiber there. So, the hulled hemp seed is the simple. So I always say, if you want to eat one hemp food as a raw ingredient, select hulled hemp seed because you're getting the dietary fiber, the omegas, the protein, the array of vitamins and minerals all in one. You can make it into a nut butter. It can make into your non-dairy beverage. And it's really, really versatile once you start incorporating it into your kitchen.
Yeah.
So, Senora Anndrea, do you know that Argentina is a big meat producer, right? Cattle. We have more than 50 million cattle. Do you think that hemp can work for feeding product for cattle, for horses?
Yes. right now we are definitely seeing a push in the equine, dairy, sow, chicken for feed. Using oil. So we saw a lot of flax come on. So using flax as a sister bash crop one, and a sister crop in omegas, even though hemp has a superior ratio compared to flax. But still, with that, looking at flax, we had a huge push from flax. So you started seeing flax eggs, for instance, right? So using hemp oil in the same kind of manner, incorporating that in, or when you're using or making your chop, there was some silage work that has been done on using hemp as a silage crop. And then if you're able to take off that grain, feed the grain straight to the animals also. So that's one other direct way, not even to go into crushing, using the grain itself, or using it to help make your pellets, because it has the oil, can help bind it together with other ingredients. But in addition,
not the fiber, because for alfalfa they don't use the seeds, they only use the stem.
Yeah, that's for the silage. So like the crop that's behind me right now, cutting it when it's really soft and supple, and the inner xylem has not hardened up yet.
Right. It's not woody enough.
Yeah, would become like a silage crop. So absolutely. I mean, there has been work done on it, but it's also being mindful of what that Delta 9 and cannabinoid levels are in there and what impact that can have. But so far, great success in the equine sector also. And one of the papers I presented was looking at the benefit of using hemp in a pork loaf. So a bun with pork in it, right? So as we talk about meat eating cultures and how can they incorporate it into their existing diets, into their existing recipes. So I always suggest, if somebody wants to incorporate hemp into their recipe, it calls for 1 cup. You can start with 1/8 of a cup or 1/4 of a cup, supplementing hemp into that as that flour blend without imparting too much hempiness or changing the profile of your bread, because bread in these most applications need the gluten to create that pub, to create that elasticity in the bread.
Right. Yes.
Here where I live in Oregon, hemp bread is available at every grocery store, as is hemp milk and hemp seed and hemp foods in various products. So we have wide assortment there. Of course, it's all over the body care industry as well. So
who's one of the hemp bread brands, Paul?
What?
Who's one of the hemp bread brands?
Franz Bread, which is the big bakery about half a mile from me here. And so Franz Bread makes a real good hemp bread, as does Nature Bake.
Nice.
And so those are a couple of them here locally. But the other thing I'd say to farmers who are growing perhaps for the medicinal market, the CBD market, I work with a lot of doctors, and what I've heard most recently is that CBG is better in general, that CBG will do everything that CBD will do, and most of what THC will do without the associated high. So CBGA, or the CBG acid form, is also the mother cannabinoid. It starts your plant. It's the first cannabinoid that the baby cannabis plants produce. So I would tell farmers to concentrate more on CBG than on CBD. But you want to produce for your market. So
and something that we've seen, the negative part of separating the cannabinoids is that some companies made frauds with the CBD name. They did it in Colombia, they did it in Uruguay, and
here in the United States.
In the United States, and also in Argentina. A U.S. company did it too in Argentina, and this pyramidal type of organizations that also use CBD to sell you things, and all they're interested is in the financial game, and they ripping people off. I think so. Many of these companies are badly using the CBD mark to do this, unfortunately.
It's still a good product, though.
On for a little bit more than an hour. I don't know exactly how long they wanted us to have our panel for this.
No, this is really valuable, because we're gonna edit it and translate the whole thing, and we're going to put it, we're going to put it in place. So it doesn't matter, if we make something really decent for 40 minutes, or it will be cool.
All right.
All
Well,
right,
then
well-
I guess we should go in closing remarks. Anything you want to say in closing? Go right ahead, folks.
Well, thanks
Anndrea?
Mike. Thanks for inviting all of us on. It was great to connect with everybody here in Thailand and get to know each other better than we had known each other. So thanks for inviting us to participate in Hemp Argentina. We're happy to do what we can to spread the good word.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, the people that are organizing the expo don't have the local authority support like they did in Chaco to bring people over. In Chaco, we were able to bring Paul and Don over. So let's hope for the best for the future. Maybe we can make it some other time, and I'll be happy to host you guys here, Anndrea and everybody there that was in Thailand with us. It would be so nice to have you here and show you around and have a good time. And well, we'll probably can make it in the future. I'm sure about it. But for the time now, we have to do this. We take advantage of the technology and let the Argentine public know you guys. And the expo is going to be a big success. It was a big success in Chaco with more than 80,000 attendants. So this one in Mar del Plata. Mar del Plata is the third city. It's an ocean city. It has a beautiful beach side, and it's a beautiful city. I love it, and the food is terrific. I love it, and they treat you really nice. And we're really happy. We're really happy to present you guys there, and I'm thrilled about it. So this is a really interesting moment for the education part, for educating these masses of people that own land, that they're observing what the soybean has done in their own lands, and all the cancer producing and all that you don't hear many people talk about it, but it's the truth. So we're really happy to introduce hemp and to introduce you guys.
Thank you guys so much. Always an honor. Take care.
Thank you, Anndrea.
Thank you. And keep working to restore hemp.
Restore hemp.